Okay, this is a super random trade. I had to actually go do some fact checking here. This is a rare entity. Look, I don't mind doing my research when I am unsure. That happened to your boy. I did not know it was a thing for teams to do trades while the playoffs are still going on. But I figured it out, and I found out, yes, this is a thing. We rarely see this happen because technically it's one of those things where you could do it, but oftentimes in just good faith, you don't do it. You wait till the playoffs are over. Every team's on an even playing field. Because think about it, right? Like, the Philadelphia 76ers ain't going to make a trade for Ben Simmons right now. Like, maybe they, and we're going to talk about this more in a second, they ain't going to trade Joel Embiid right now if they wanted to because they're in the playoffs. You can't make, those teams can't make trades. So I do look at it as like a little bit of a unfair advantage for teams to be making moves while other teams are competing for what's supposed to be the prized possession in this sport, which is a championship. But nevertheless, there is a trade that has taken place in the NBA. It centers around former All-Star point guard Kemba Walker. He will be on a move along with a first-round pick, a couple other pieces as well. They're on the move to Oklahoma City as the Thunder trade back Al Horford to Boston, a place where Al was at just a few years ago before signing in Philly and then getting traded to OKC in the George Hill trade. So now you have Al Horford going back to a place that he's familiar with, and the Celtics officially get rid of Kemba Walker. That's Brad Stevens' first big official move as GM in Boston. So he's like the anti-Danny Ainge here, getting rid of Kemba Walker. I want to speak to this really quickly here. You know, I knew for a fact Kemba's days in Boston were numbered. I think we reported on that the other day, that the Celtics and Kemba knew that the end was near. Both sides knew that this was not going to be a thing next year. It was just a matter of could the Celtics find a trade partner for Kemba. It's a unique situation as well. You got to find a team that's willing to essentially swallow up Kemba's contract. He's owed about $73 million over the next 3 years, I believe, somewhere around that, 2-3 years. And Al Horford's owed about $54 million in guaranteed for the next 2 if the Celtics keep him around. We'll see what happens with both of these gentlemen's contract if they're not bought out at some point in it. But, I mean, it's not like the Celtics are getting a crap ton of money shaved off of their cap. This is more about a fit thing. This is more about, hey, we want to establish some roles better here in Boston. We don't believe Kemba Walker fits with what we're trying to do. I've been adamant about that. I felt like you got the most out of guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown when Marcus Smart was on the basketball versus when Kemba was on the basketball. He just didn't fit in. And honest to God truth, that Boston organization gave up on Kemba following the bubble. Boston believes they should have been the team to at least get to the NBA Finals, a spot in which the Miami Heat took out east about, 9 months ago. So that's what this comes down to. The Boston Celtics never bought back into Kemba, who's had some knee injuries throughout his career, and also Al Horford's had knee injuries throughout his career. So one injured person gets traded for another injury-prone person. So, yeah, that's the thing. Boston didn't think Kemba fit in, and I think they're right about that one. You got to find a trade partner. Not a lot of teams willing to do that. You had to attach your first-round pick. By the way, if things work out in the best-case scenario for Oklahoma City, they could potentially have 2 top 5 picks in this year's draft. Wow, they have traded the whole ship, the Russell Westbrooks of the world, the Paul Georges of the world, the Chris Pauls of the world, and here's the rebuild. This is what it looks like. It could start now with potentially 2 top 5 picks in what's going to be a good draft. Now, I have a theory about this Kemba Walker move. Now, y'all rock with me here. Tell me what you think. I don't think it's by surprise that the Celtics made this move with what's going on in the Eastern Conference. What are we watching right now? Hawks, Sixers going to a decisive Game 7. But let's focus on one part of that. Despite Ben Simmons' struggles, you've had guys like Seth Curry and company and Joel Embiid step up, right? We know, Ben ain't done Philly no favors. He struggled from the free throw line. He obviously won't take a jumper. They've had to take him off the court late in games because of the hack of Ben. Like, he's a really good defender, but what does that matter if he can't make free throws? Atlanta's literally going hack a Ben. It's one thing when you're going hack a Shaq, hack a Dwight Howard, hack a big guy. It's another thing when you can't keep your point guard, who's a very tall point guard, but still your point guard, when you can't keep him on the court late in games. That's become a problem. I don't know what Philly's offseason plans are. Depends on, I guess, what happens with them in Game 7 against Atlanta and what happens with them in the conference finals and if they make it to the NBA finals. But let's just say they lose to Atlanta in 7 games. I bet you Brad Stevens in Boston thought, if we don't move Kemba Walker today, with Oklahoma City saying they'll take him right now, if we don't move him right now, what'll end up happening is Philly will call Oklahoma City after the season, whenever their season ends, and say, hey, we'll take Al Horford back, or whatever the trade may be. There were other ways to work it out. We'll if you guys will take Ben Simmons off our hands, as we're looking for a different type of guard, a guard that ain't afraid to take a jump shot, for crying out sakes. If you guys will take that, we'll find some picks to give you alongside Ben Simmons. And I believe Brad Stevens in Boston said, we're not going to allow Philly to get an opportunity to call the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, though I think Kemba's a better player, he's obviously a much more accomplished player to date. Here's the thing. I'm not so sure that Ben Simmons doesn't make a little more sense for what Oklahoma City's trying to do for the next couple years. They're not trying to win games. Well, Joel Embiid, with Ben Simmons, I'm not going to say he goes out and loses games, because the brother plays hard. He can go get you 9 and 9 any given night, right? The thing is, he can't shoot. So you allow him to go to Oklahoma City, learn his jump shot, figure that bad boy out, and he literally dedicate himself to getting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander the basketball as they find adequate pieces around him, right? He's an all-star caliber guy. He probably wouldn't make it out west, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, he's probably not going to get voted an all-star in the foreseeable future anyway, though, because of his performance in the playoffs thus far. So you could have gotten Ben Simmons and attached him to SGA and just kind of let him build. And I don't know what Oklahoma City would have preferred. Kemba Walker with knee issues versus a Ben Simmons who, yes, he can't shoot, but he's still a phenomenal defender. He's a phenomenal facilitator. And maybe he can figure the jump shot out later. With no big injuries, by the way, as of late. He's had the one injury coming out of LSU, but he's been pretty good money for the last 4 or 5 years of his career. So maybe that was the thought process behind why Brad Stevens and company pulled the trigger while the playoffs are still going on. Who won this trade? Let me know. Oklahoma City, Boston Celtics. I'm going to say both teams had a good one, but Boston did what they needed to do. They did not want Kemba Walker on the roster, and now he's gone. I'm out.